Hello everyone, and welcome to the introduction lesson to mitosis and sexual reproduction. So far, all the reproduction that we've seen in AP Bio has been asexual reproduction, or reproduction that simply requires the replication of DNA and the dividing into another cell. We've seen this in mitosis, and then we also saw it in bacteria when we learned binary fission. In the first part of this unit, we're going to talk about meiosis and why meiosis is necessary for sexual reproduction. And then in the second half of this unit, we're going to talk about basically how traits are passed from parent to offspring using something that you know of Punnett squares, which we did a little bit when you guys were ninth graders. But the purpose of today's lesson is to introduce you to meiosis and the process of sexual reproduction. So like I said, so far, we have only talked about in AP Bio asexual reproduction, okay? Asexual reproduction, okay, always requires only one organism, most like 95% of the time. You don't need two organisms for asexual reproduction, okay? The main method for asexual reproduction is mitosis, okay? And when cells are produced by mitosis, they produce daughter cells that are exact copies of each other. They have the same amount of DNA, the same number of chromosomes, and the exact same genetic information, okay? Cells produced by mitosis, okay, which is basically the mechanism of asexual reproduction, are genetically identical cells. Some organisms that reproduce asexually, the one that we talked about just recently is bacteria. And bacteria actually don't reproduce by mitosis. They reproduce by binary fission, which is similar to mitosis, except all that happens in binary fission is that the bacteria has to replicate its DNA, its circular chromosome, and then divide in half. There's no need to line the chromosomes up in the middle because bacteria only have one chromosome. Some other organisms that reproduce asexually, yeast, which they're fungi, and you buy yeast in the store, and they divide by mitosis, by mitosis. Protists, which are single-celled eukaryotic organisms. Two of them that you might have heard of, but we've talked about at least the paramecium. We talked about the paramecium and its contractile vacuole, and the amoeba. These are eukaryotic cells that divide simply by doing mitosis. This is an image of an amoeba here, reproducing by mitosis. And then we're not going to go much into this, but there is a simple multicellular eukaryote called a hydra. It lives in the ocean. It's not visible. It's small. It looks like a pencil. If you look at it, if you try to look at it, it looks like a pencil tip. Okay, and it actually reproduces by a process known as budding, where it actually like a identical copy of the organism buds off the hydra. Okay, we're not going to talk much about the hydra, but again, the purpose of asexual reproduction. You have to realize two things. It only requires one organism, okay? And the organisms produced by asexual reproduction are genetically identical to the organism that they came from. Okay. Now, we, complex, multicellular organisms, do not reproduce asexually, okay? We reproduce sexually by the joining of egg and sperm. Okay. Now, egg and sperm, okay, are not made by mitosis. Okay. Egg and sperm are made by the process of meiosis, which is the purpose of the next, 3 days of our life, or at least school life, is to learn the process of meiosis. The question now that we're trying to answer is, why is that necessary? Okay. Why is it necessary that sperm and egg are produced by meiosis? Okay. Well, let's talk about it. So, and if you didn't know, humans, like our body cells, like the cells of your skin, the cells of your brain, the cells of the liver, have 46 chromosomes. Okay? And so, when the cells of your skin divide by mitosis, they produce another genetically identical cell that has 46 chromosomes. Okay? But let's say, just for now, okay, that the egg had 46 chromosomes, and the sperm had 46 chromosomes. When they combined, they would then have 92. That's double the amount of chromosomes your normal cells have. Okay? And then in the next generation, right, if this zygote produced, remember this zygote is going to grow into a baby, okay? But if we never have the chromosome number, which is meiosis knows, every single generation, this is the important part, so I would write this down, the chromosome number would double. That's not good. That's not viable for offspring. So instead, what meiosis does, and we're going to see how in tomorrow's lesson is going to be tough, alright, is meiosis halves the chromosome number. So when females are making eggs by meiosis, the eggs produced do not have 46 chromosomes. Okay? They do not have 46 chromosomes. Instead, they have 23. And similarly, the sperm produced by men, okay, when they're produced by the process of meiosis, they also have 23 chromosomes. Okay? And then, when the egg gets fertilized by the sperm, the zygote will maintain the chromosome number of 46. So if we had to summarize, okay, the purpose of meiosis, okay, the purpose of meiosis is to have the chromosome number so that when sperm and egg fertilize, the chromosome number will always stay the same for each generation of organism. In a second, after we talk about the difference between asexual and sexual reproduction, we're going to focus more in on the differences between mitosis and meiosis. Okay? But before we do that, we're going to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of reproducing asexually versus the advantages to the organisms producing sexually. Okay. So for the advantages of sexual reproduction, asexual reproduction. There are two main advantages to asexual reproduction. First of all, it's quicker, right? We've seen that bacteria. I've told you that bacteria reproduce asexually, and they can reproduce in a matter of minutes. Many, many more bacteria. Okay? It also requires less energy. So those are the two advantages of asexual reproduction. Okay? The disadvantage of asexual reproduction is that since it uses mitosis, or binary fission if you're a bacteria, okay, the organisms produced have less genetic variability. Okay, we're going to see when we get to the evolution unit that genetic variability is essential for species to survive. The more genetic variability, the better apt the species is to be able to survive changes. Okay, we'll get to that when we talk about evolution. So again, the benefits of asexual reproduction is that it's quicker, it requires less energy. Okay? The disadvantage of asexual reproduction is that it results in less genetic variability in the offspring. I guess I should put in offspring. Okay? Now, the disadvantages of... I'll go through the disadvantages first. The disadvantages of sexual reproduction, okay, is that it's slower. Okay? I mean, not only do you have to go through courtship behaviors of, finding the mate and taking them out to dinner or whatever lions do, lions roar and peacocks dance. Not only do you have to go through courtship rituals, but the pregnant female has to, grow the baby for however long the gestation period. Humans, 9 months. Other organisms have shorter gestation periods. So it's slower, okay? And it also requires more energy for various reasons. Growing the baby, producing the baby, all those things require energy, as opposed to just dividing in half in asexual reproduction. Now, the huge benefit of sexual reproduction is that it leads to more genetic variability in the species or in the organism. To put this in a more simple way, let's say humans actually reproduced asexually. And what that would mean is that let's say a man wants to have a baby, he would just divide all his cells and then produce a baby that's genetically identical to him. Instead, that doesn't happen, obviously. Instead, what happens is that a man and a woman combine their egg and sperm, and they produce a baby that has a mix of the man's genetics and a mix of the female's genetics. And that is genetic variability. Okay? You'll see at the end of this week, one of our lessons is going to be how meiosis promotes genetic variability. Alright, so I do not want to have to stop in the middle of this video to make another one. This is a good place to stop. So I'm going to upload this video, okay? And then you'll see in the next video we're going to talk more about, we're going to directly compare the process of mitosis to the process of meiosis.